Hello, and I'm going to show you a little Stampin Squirrels special with a waterfall card this afternoon. I've got a couple of examples here in front of me now, and I'm just going to show you how they work. So it looks quite straightforward, but the trick with these is as you can see by the ribbon, it's a sort of interactive option. So take hold of your ribbon. If you gently pull your ribbon, you end up with a 3D card, really. Lots of possibility and scope for how you can do it and how you could decorate your squares. So we'll go through it slowly and hopefully you'll be able to make a beautiful waterfall card, which, as you can see, just does that lovely movement. I'm also featuring today, now I would normally call this a green paper with leaves on it, but I've had to make sure I know exactly what it's called. And this is the lovely Forever Greenery Designer Series paper. So let me just pop those out of the way and I can show you the papers. So the papers are really lovely, even for someone who's not necessarily the most smitten on green compared to the other squirrel. These are really lovely papers. So I just want to show you, so you've got a series of sides that are very leaf based, which I think are very beautiful and it's just some really lovely subtle colours and ranges all on the leaf theme, which if you like is their A side. And then if we turn it over, as always with Stampin' Up, you have like a B side, which again could be used for all sorts of different things. So what I've done with the cards that I've made is you have used an A side and a B side, if you like, so you can see how both sides could fit depending on which piece of paper you like the most. So let me show you. This card uses, let me find it, that side of the paper. There we go, that's that one. But if you turn the paper over, you have that side. So there's lots of scope and lots of choice depending on what you'd like to do and basically however you'd like to put it together. So it's fairly straightforward. As always, it looks more complicated than it is. So start with a basic card base for a C6 card base. Then I've just used some mint macaroon as my base colour, and slightly smaller, there's my piece of designer series paper. So in effect that's going to be your card base. So first of all I'm just going to, and in this instance I could use that side, which I think goes quite nicely, or in this instance I'm going to go with a slightly whiter base and use this leaf one. So I'm just going to use some of the quick glue. So I've done that, and I'm just going to put that now just to one side so it's out the way, but we know it's all ready to go. Now the bits you'll need for this, if you come to do it, I'm just going to bring these in now so you can see all the different component parts. Oops, I've lost a leaf. There we go. So if you look back at the cards we've made, what you'll see is there are a series of squares, and in this instance to give them a really good contrast I've used black base with a white square. But then you've also, in order for the pulley part to work, you've got an underneath section which you add it to. And then for the whole thing to come together, you need this strip across. So for some basic measurements, you've got 4 2 by 2 inch squares. Okay, if I put the card down next to it, you can see where those are. So those are the black 4 2 by 2 inch squares. You've then got 4 1.5 inch squares, or 1 3/4 inches, depending on how much of a border you want to show. Your strip of card is 1 inch by 4 1/4. You might want to slightly trim it in depending on the width of your card base. So for example, here we go, here's the one I did base earlier. Looking at it now, yeah, that fits perfectly, but depending on the size of your base, you just need the width to tie up to the size of the base. And then finally, you've got this section which I have done, which is a length which is 9 inches by 1 7/8 of an inch. And then what you'll see is obviously I've cut it out using one of the decorative punches to get a nice feel for the end. So if you look back at the card where the ribbon is there, you can see when you start to pull it out there's a really nice decorative edge to it, which just makes it slightly more attractive. Let me pop that back for now. So on your 9 inch long piece of card, which is basically the length of a piece of A4 piece of paper, I've just punched a decorative edge on one end, and then I've scored it at 2 inches, 2 3/4, 3 1/2, and 4 1/4 inches. I'll just say those again. So that's 2 inches for scoring, 2 3/4, 3 1/2, and 4 1/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is just bend those over using my bone folder, just to make sure they're all neatly folded, because this will help when you pull your card through, if these are not folded well, it doesn't full and flip over the edges to make the waterfall effect. But in effect, you don't see this piece of card other than when you pull it out. So that's how it's going to work as a mechanism. Okay. So you need to prep your mechanism card, which I'm going to call a slider in effect. Now the other thing I've got is I wanted to use this lovely Forever Greenery Designer Series paper. It has a very interesting set of both a stamp set and a die set. So Forever Fern is the stamp set, but in that instance I haven't used it. What I have used, however, is the Forever Flourishing Die Set, and I think these are a lovely set of dies. And what I've done, as you'll see from the little leaf shapes, is I've used these little leaf dies, and there are 4 of them. So you can, it's a way of using scraps or decorative elements, so you can cut 4 of them out really easily, and it makes it very quick to do. It's not, you're not going to put one die through 4 times. In that sense, you can put the 4 through at the same time. So I've used those little dies. Sometimes I think the little dies get overlooked, but they're just as decorative and just as interesting. But you can see you've got lots of other fantastic leaf shapes. That's a really interesting one. And then obviously you've got the silhouette dies that go with the stamped images as well. I also really like that little, if you like, as like a laurel wreath almost in some effect, isn't it? So those are the Forever Flourishing dies. I'm having a bit of trouble with my teeth today, I think. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the little leaf shapes I've got to glue these onto the white card. So I think I've got shaded spruce, soft seafoam, the mint macaron, and then I've done one in foil as well. So as you'll see from my effect, what I wanted to do is have a decorative effect that's built up. So you have each of the individual 3 colours. Now you could do it that you only see the first one and then you don't see any, or you hide all of them underneath the cards. But however, I think it's just nice to see some of them, so you've got a hint of something happening underneath. So I'm just using the fine tip glue, and I'm just going to put a dabble of glue onto each of the out leaves, and then I'm just going to stick my, at this point I'm only going to do 1 leaf per square, so it doesn't matter where I stick them. Once you've got your 4 white pieces of card sorted, then you just need to quickly, well not quickly, you can take however long you want really, adhere each square to the black square. So then you end up with 4 squares with your leaves on. Now, this is the bit you just need to think about, because when you're going to do your mechanism part, what you have to do is you have to do it when you're gluing them on. It's going to be the one you see last, in this instance the 3 leaves, which goes onto the base part of the card. Okay, so the black card is just slightly bigger than the slider card. That means there's going to be no peeping over the top. Okay, so what you're going to do, you've got to think about the order in a minute. So I know this is going to be my base one, so what I'm just going to do is put a little double line there, and think about the way I want it to go. In this instance I'm going to have it going, I don't know, you can have it at the shopping, or I could have it at the top. I'm going to have it at the top this time. Obviously, if you didn't want to use the leaves, you could stamp a sentiment, but I'm also going to show you somewhere else where you could stamp a sentiment as well. Then you need to think about the order in which you want your leaves to go and whether you want them in different directions, how you want them to be seen, because you're next going to do another glue line by the next fold. Okay, so pick your next one, and again just do it on the top, line it up, and try and make sure that the black is lining up as well. So now you have your leaf with all of your folding parts showing. Whoops, I'm sorry, I haven't quite lined that one up. Give that a bit of a squish, that'll be fine. Make sure they're all nice and secure, and then your slider, let me just put this one away, is ready to come together. So the next thing you just need to do is you'll need to add your strip across your card like that. So I would advise using double-sided tape on the ends, either end of your card strip, because that will make it nice and secure. Just for speed now, because I think I seem to have left my double-sided tape somewhere else, I'm just going to use some snow glue, and you want it roughly at about a third of the way up, and then I've just done it so it goes out to the edge of the coloured base, so you've got it lined up. If it does come out slightly, you can always turn it over and get, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a trim because it's just sticking out very slightly. There we go, that's a bit better. So that's, but please make sure you don't put any glue in the middle, because if you realise what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to put your slider card in the mechanism, okay? So just make sure that you've left enough space for your slider card to slide around. Okay, now before we go any further, what I'm going to suggest you do, because once you've got your slider card sort of positioned, actually it's a bit tricky to put your glue on. So what I've used this time is I've used some of the grey granite shimmer ribbon. I think it's a lovely ribbon, and it's quite smooth, a little bit glittery, so it works really well. So before I go any further, I'm just going to slightly awkwardly thread my ribbon through and tie it on. Now, final thing is, if you have your slider element open and you just need to make sure it's sort of in the middle where you're going to do, then you're going to finally just put a little bit, you're going to put some glue. I just need to double check against my original card, make sure I know what I'm doing. You're going to put some glue across the width, so it's the same width as your slider part, and then you're going to take this top part and you're just going to come down. Don't worry about where the other bits are, you just need to line up your slider part, line it up, and you're going to stick, it will move around a bit so it's a bit peculiar, line it up and then really stick it down quite hard. Now before you adhere this to the base card, just try your slider mechanism. So take your ribbon and very gently just pull, and you can see it works. Now if you remember what I said at the beginning, you could do an alternative, so you could have a stamped image if you want, or you could have alternative die cut shapes. You could therefore put a sentiment onto here, or you could indeed put something onto here. So I noticed in the Forever Fern set there's actually a really nice To a Friend That Makes Me Smile, and I'm thinking that might be a nice stamp that you could have put on there, but entirely up to you what you want to. I also had a look at the Rustic Retreat stamp set. Again, a stamp set like that which is slightly longer would lend itself very nicely to going on to the stamped set there. You could also in this instance use the Happy Birthday, which would fit probably on the white element as well, on the white square. So there's your slider. You've checked that your slider mechanism works. Once you're happy with your ribbons, you might just want to just trim the ends a little bit so they're a little bit more under control. Mine seem to be completely out of control. And then finally you just need to adhere your, turn your card over, you need to adhere it, and I've used some dimensionals. I don't want very many, but I just want a few to stick it to the base of the card. and pop it on. So there we go. There's your finished waterfall card with interactive pulley. I hope you enjoy making it, and we'll make sure that the measurements, if you want to be able to duplicate it and do it again, are available for you to try on the screen. And I'd say 3 very different looking cards, but all using the same technique and the same mechanism, and I hope you have fun.